Hello and welcome. Thrilled to have you here. Excited for another episode of the Nonprofit Show. As you can tell with our yellow background on today's episode, today we have a thought leader episode, and we're going to talk about year-end asset giving strategies with the Infinite Giving team. So today we have Karen Houghton with us and RJ Caswell, and we're going to dive deep in this conversation for year-end asset strategies. And I'm really excited to learn more from both of you. Julia Patrick, thank you for creating this platform. Julia is the CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. I'm Jarrett Ransom, your nonprofit nerd, CEO of the Raven Group, and I'm honored to serve alongside as co-host for each and every show, just as RJ mentioned, 626. So really excited to be here and serve in this capacity. We have to give a shout out to our sponsors. They keep us going and growing, 600 plus strong. So thank you so very much to Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Fundraising Academy at National University, Be Generous, Your Part-Time Controller, Staffing Boutique, Nonprofit Thought Leader, and Nonprofit Nerd. If you haven't checked out these companies, I encourage you to do so because they're here to help you support your mission, grow your mission in and around your community. And if you missed any of our episodes, you know where to find them: Roku, YouTube, Amazon Fire TV, as well as Vimeo. And for those of you that are podcast listeners, go ahead and queue us up wherever you stream your podcast. And before we get into this, RJ and Karen, I'm curious, are the two of you podcast listeners? Do you listen to those?
Absolutely, yes. I'm a big podcaster. Although I will say post-COVID, I'm commuting less. And so I listen less. But it's a beautiful thing to have some of that time back now, having that work from home and office blend.
Yeah. What about you, RJ? Are you a podcast listener?
So I'll go through seasons of listening. As somebody who probably didn't realize how much ADD is in my body until later in life, I start listening to something, and either somebody says, I'll go on a tangent, or I'll just be lost in my thoughts and miss like 5 minutes.
That happens to me. Yeah, that happens to me.
I often read the transcripts, actually, of episodes I'm really interested in. I'll go back and read transcripts because I can do that more efficiently than I often can with podcasts.
That's interesting to hear. Well, thanks to both of you for sharing that. This episode, of course, will be on podcast, and maybe you can read the transcript of that. But Karen Houghton, as Chief Executive Officer, RJ Caswell, Director of Business Development, both at Infinite Giving, welcome back.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So this is your third appearance. We mentioned that earlier. And today we're going to talk about, year-end asset giving. But go ahead, Karen, tell us a little bit about Infinite Giving, who you are, what you do, and how we can find you.
Yeah, Infinite Giving is a registered investment advisor for nonprofits. So we bring investment experience. We serve as a fiduciary for you as you work through what to do with your reserve funds, how to best manage an endowment, maybe even creating your first endowment. And we also help nonprofits to receive cryptocurrency and stock gifts. And we do it all in one inclusive, easy to use, modern platform. So we have some really great people, a lot of highly experienced investment professionals, but we also have some beautiful technology to come alongside and give you an exceptional experience.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, because that's really important as we talk about today's conversation. You mentioned crypto, you mentioned stock. Talk to us a little bit about how Infinite Giving can serve as that fiduciary for nonprofits and work with gifts of stock and crypto. Which one of you wants to dive into this for us?
Karen, you can jump in.
Yeah, a lot of the conversations that we have initially with nonprofits is often just starting with education, right? So it's the idea of, should we receive stocks in crypto? Like, is that really important? And sometimes when we're talking about, say, for instance, cryptocurrency, it's not a silver bullet, right? Sometimes people are like, but if I can accept crypto, yet they're still in a scarcity mindset, they don't have their budget covered. I'm like, is someone talking to you about giving you crypto? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, then maybe you're not at a place where I would say, go pay an annual fee and sign up and do like this big financial commitment right now if no one is even talking to you about cryptocurrency.
That's
But
interesting.
on the flip side of that same coin, people who disregard crypto, I think, are missing out. How much do you think has been given in philanthropy last year in cryptocurrency, if you had to guess?
Oh gosh, you're going to make me do this. I'm going to say $1 million.
$330 million was given in philanthropy through crypto last year.
RJ knew I wasn't going to get it right. And he's
I mean, it was just fun.
I'm just closer. I was closer on the guessing how many episodes. I'm just saying.
You were much closer. You win for sure. Okay,
So
300 million, is that right?
It's a lot. And so when you're thinking about that, it's like the organizations who are not thinking about crypto are also missing out. Because sometimes when you talk to crypto holders who are usually younger, usually a little bit more technologically savvy, then they're thinking about like, hey, also Fidelity Charitable did a study that showed that crypto owners are actually even more philanthropic than the average donor. So you're starting to look at this kind of really interesting where you've got this massive amount of wealth. A lot of it's new wealth, right? Created in a community that is pretty philanthropic and wants to give back. Yet 95% of nonprofits don't understand crypto, don't have a way to receive it or even dismiss it. So you have to find that balance of like, hey, where are you? If someone came to you with this opportunity, do you have the opportunity to say yes? Do you understand like the education needed as you're talking to donors? If they're like, hey, do you own any cryptocurrency? Here's some tax benefits on why you should give us Bitcoin or Ethereum. So to go really high level, right? Crypto, think of it like foreign money, right? It's internet money, right? And we could get really deep into it, but that's not the conversation for today. It's more just like, is there value? And the answer is yes. And is there a way for you to easily receive it? That answer is also yes. So Infinite Giving can do that, right? So what we do is we come alongside nonprofits and we say, hey, if you need to be able to receive stock gifts or cryptocurrency, we can help you, right? And what we do is we help you receive it. We create a wallet for you. It's all white labeled for you. It's got your name and logo on there, and you're able to easily receive cryptocurrency. We liquidate it into cash for you immediately, and we put it directly into your bank account. So it's a really easy process. So sometimes people are like, crypto is really confusing and I'm not sure what to do with it. Like if you hear anything, it is educate yourself. You don't have to be an expert to receive it. You just need to know enough to say, hey, a lot of donors hold this. I mean, I hold it, right? Most people, right? Mm-hmm. Like most people who are a little bit younger generation, a little bit more savvy in this, have some kind of crypto. And so the idea of being like, hey, did you know that it is tax efficient for you to donate, just like it would be an asset in stocks? So we have a really great crypto white paper that's on our website at infiniteGiving.com. You can download it for free. It's actually written in a way that we wanted to make sure was really easy to understand. It's like 5 pages and it's like, what is crypto? Why is it important for us to be able to receive it? And so there's a few different players in the space. And then once you're like, okay, I want to do this, the next question we always talk people through is be aware of fees that you're going to pay, make sure it's worthwhile, and make sure you're at a place where you're ready to receive that and you have a donor base that you can, start to educate and let them be aware of that.
I love that you started by saying, do you have someone wanting to give you crypto, right? Because if not, maybe you're not quite ready to go down that path, but we can work on the education component of that, because all 3 of us raised our hand. We're like, yeah, we have crypto, at some level. I mean, I'm not rich off of it yet, but I have it. And I've also heard other people refer to it as like pirate's booty, right? So it's like, I'm not quite sure what it is, but a lot of people have it. And so that education component before launching into the platform of the ability to receive, I love that you distinguish that for us, Karen.
Yeah. I think I'd add, I was going to say, I'd add quickly too. I think that's exactly right what Karen said, because I think it also allows especially donor development advancement folks to be able to have conversations to even discover who does have it. Do you know we accept it? Do you know we're looking to accept it? Because my guess is those questions haven't even been asked to know who holds it in their current giving database. Who even holds it?
Yeah. The other piece that I would need it for me, the crypto, holder, how do I donate it, right? How are donations made? Because I'm going to witness to you and all of our viewers and listeners. I don't know how that works, but knowing that that's an option, and I know it's an option, but to make it, a seamless transaction, to where it's, by and large, effortless on my end, perfect. That's what I'm looking to get.
And that's one of the things that Infinite Giving tries to do too, is we make it really, really easy, right? Because most nonprofit leaders, your job is not to be a crypto expert. That is, you have other things to do. You have a bigger mission, right? You want to cultivate the relationships and leave the transactions to somebody else. And so for us, what we do is we give you a link that even our implementation team can help you put the link on your website. But often it's like when you go to a website, if you see, hey, you can donate crypto, click here. And literally that QR code, and if you're not a crypto person, I may be losing you already, but it's literally like, it's a link and it pops up and it gives a QR code for the wallet. And that's how you send the money. And if you're a crypto holder, you already know this, you understand it immediately. You open up your wallet, you scan the QR code, and I've given you crypto, and it takes me like less than 2 minutes. So it's very, very easy. And those people want to see it on your website. And it doesn't mean it's replacing a relationship. Sometimes I talk to development people and they're like, I don't want to do that because I want to talk to everybody. And I'm like, what do your donors want? We always come back to, where are your donors holding their wealth? What kind of relationship do you want with them? And most importantly, how do they want to give? And so if that's how they want to give, being able to go onto a website and just see, oh, this is really easy. Boom, done. Gave them crypto. It took me 2 minutes. And as a crypto holder, it's very straightforward and very efficient. And that's also one of the reasons we decided not to do transaction fees on our crypto giving. So we're just a subscription rate. If you're an investment client, it's entirely free. If you're not an investment client, we allow you to do a subscription. And that way you're not saying, hey, I'm going to give up 5% of that gift, because no donor loves to hear that, right? It's like, oh, no, there's this flat rate. We've planned for it. It's part of our budget. And that allows all of this giving to go directly to their intent. So, and you still get in our dashboard, you still get their name and their email. So you still are able to identify that donor and be able to say thank you.
And have those relationship building opportunities, which is really important. Let's dive into the power of brokerage accounts. And RJ, can you tell us a little bit, like, let's just go baseline. What's the definition of a brokerage account? Like, let's educate everyone here so that before we talk about the power of them, let's figure out, what are they?
Sure. Brokerage accounts, in my words, and Jerry, I've talked about trying to just use regular language, and Karen can jump in and probably add a much more technical definition. But brokerage account is basically an investment account. It's an account that's able to hold stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So it's similar to a bank account, but it's specifically for investments.
Okay. And so, how many people do you think have a brokerage account
for nonprofits?
Well, just in general. Yeah, I'm curious.
I would think a majority of us have a brokerage account because we have a 401k or a 403b.
Right.
And so that account is a brokerage account. And so you might have Robinhood or Wealthfront or Betterment, or you might just have a 401k through your employer. Those are all in brokerage accounts. You might be a day trader or really auto invest and never touch it, but those are all through brokerage accounts.
Okay, great. And now let's talk about the power of them now and how they can support and really advance the missions of nonprofits.
Sure. It's a key piece. As Karen was talking about with crypto, you have a wallet, but for stocks, you need a brokerage account to donate them or to receive the donation. And so that, I'll be honest with you, that has been a barrier for a lot of nonprofits, especially small and medium-sized nonprofits, because in the past, starting a brokerage account can be a headache. I just talked to a nonprofit earlier this summer. They actually opened a brokerage account. It took them 6 weeks because it's still a lot of paper and a lot of printing and going back and forth to open up a brokerage account. And so we do have new players in the space. We're really thrilled to be one of those and think we have a great product that's using technology to automate a lot of those things to open a brokerage account so we can reduce the friction for nonprofits to open a brokerage account, because we do believe, and we'll talk about strategies I know in a little bit, but brokerage account is really a critical piece for asset giving, because nonprofits that accept stock are going to have higher gifts. Again, crypto's new, stocks have been around for a long time,
Right.
and high net worth, high capacity donors want to give stock. They just do. And most development people already know that. And so Q4, you mentioned, is a critical time to have a brokerage account if you don't have one already.
Yeah, that's right. I had mentioned that, for the majority of the US, 30% of all operating dollars are raised in the fourth quarter of every year. So that season of giving, October, November, December, which is right around the corner for us, that's when the majority of dollars, 30% come in for nonprofits. And you're right, RJ. I think that stocks have been around, but I guarantee you, while they're known now, there was a sense of this crypto, well, why should we take stocks? What are stocks? So really kind of that newness that we're experiencing now with crypto, I guarantee you stocks had this same newness, when that was first rolled out.
And even today, over 90% of nonprofits don't have a brokerage account.
Whoa.
Yes. And so
that is shocking.
And the reason that's important, and yes, it's a complete pain to open one, or it used to be Infinite Giving, we take 20 minutes of your time and 3 business days on our end, and we can have your brokerage account open. Yeah. So we've solved that for you. So that is no longer a pain point. But when you think about high wealth donors, so when we're looking at asset giving, and asset giving is like, right, you're looking at these high level gifts, high wealth donors. If you think, where are they holding their wealth? It's not in cash. Right. Like that's not where wealthy people hold their money in cash. And the reason they don't hold it in cash is because you're constantly losing value when you look at inflation. So if you're looking at capital preservation or growth, which high wealth people do, because that's how they have money, looking at growth, right? And so when you're holding all that wealth in assets, yet you're a nonprofit that's saying, we just want cash gifts. What you're requiring that donor to do is you're requiring them to go sell all those stocks. They're going to pay taxes on it. It's going to be a liquidating event. They get penalized for that. And then they're going to have to turn around and then make a cash donation to that organization of their choice. That means they have paid a large portion of their money in taxes, and the nonprofit gets a smaller gift. So it harms the donor, it harms the nonprofit, all because you've said, I don't have a brokerage account, we want cash. If you're able to say, we have a brokerage account, we receive stock gifts. The beauty in that is that as a donor, I avoid long-term capital gains taxes. It also means that I am able to have a larger claim on my taxes because I've donated a larger amount to you. Right. And then as the nonprofit, if you have a partner like Infinite Giving, receiving stock gifts is super, super easy. And then you ultimately are still getting cash, right? So they're gifting you stocks. And then you can choose, do we reinvest our stocks? Do we liquidate our stocks? All of that. But we actually receive it, liquidate it, and reinvest it for you. And you're able to do that, and you're benefiting the donor, you're getting a larger gift. And that's where you're starting to get these average larger gifts. So the average stock gift is $8,000. The average crypto gift is $10,000.
Stop. I did not expect
that's your high wealth, right? So like everyone on here, if you're able to get large gifts, then yes, like you've built relationships with people who are willing to write you a 6-figure check. If you're one of those, you're really lucky, by the way, right? But it's also this element of like, well, what if you said, hey, donor, and like we automate it, right? So they fill in their name and they get the D2C instruction. We've automated kind of the donor experience to be really beautiful and easy. It's a link that you send them. You also put it on your website. So it's not like we want a cash gift and you're asking for $10, $50, $1,000. If, so all that to say, stock gifts are a crucial part of asset giving, that if you're not talking about it and you're not educating donors, you're not letting them know it's available, it's both harming your donors and it's harming your organization, especially with large size gifts. It's really important. So when we talk about the power of brokerage accounts,
Yeah.
the power of receiving crypto, it's allowing you to receive large gifts in a really great donor experience, and it's benefiting them financially, and is benefiting you by being able to receive these gifts easily and quickly without any additional effort.
8,000 in, you said that was stocks, and 10,000 in crypto. So how do we market this? Market the opportunities to our donors. And RJ, I'm going to go back to crypto because you made a comment and I had to bite my tongue and hold it for this section.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, like how many of your donors hold crypto? How do you suggest and recommend that we find this out with our constituency base? Like, what are you seeing your clients do to find this data?
So, I mean, I go to tried and true for any development office, which is phone calls, lunches, coffees, Zooms, where you're, especially again, we're looking at high capacity donors for the most part. So hopefully you have a really good CRM that you can start dissecting some data, looking at different ranges of givers. Most likely, if you don't know them well, then goodness, you have a little bit of time to start those conversations really quickly.
Get to know them well.
Yes, that you're starting to make phone calls, knowing what they've given in the past, how they've given. Do they have options to give different ways? If we had these things. So I think a lot of it is really old-fashioned relationships out there. Now, you can do some surveys. I'm sure you can do some different things with data and use technology to help you. But I think when you're looking at, as Karen referenced, we're looking at high capacity givers. They want that relationship. And so I think it's a great opportunity to add that to your questions and your feedback when you're meeting with them. Phone calls, coffee, lunch, all those good, very old-fashioned ways.
And I love that because for those of you, if you haven't seen the previous episodes with RJ and or Karen, RJ, before Infinite Giving, was in development, and he's been in your shoes. He's done this. He's had these conversations. So I love that you bring it back to that relationship, because that's really, really, as we know, where it lies. Karen, can you talk to us a little bit more about how you've seen your clients really market these opportunities to their donors?
Yeah, you have to talk about it, right? And so much of it is education and opportunity. It's kind of like your donors are out there, but if you're not making the ask, are they giving to you? Right? In the same way, we've made it really easy, and we encourage folks to be like, when you're doing end of year campaigns, when you're looking at your giving strategies and these donor relationships, it is talking to them about all these different opportunities and different ways to give. So that's stock gifting, that's crypto, maybe that's even seeding an endowment or gifting a micro endowment. We're seeing more and more popularity in that. People want to have financial sustainability. So having education on, you don't have to be an expert in all these, but being able to talk to donors and just say, hey, asset giving is going to be an important part of our strategy. How are we having these conversations? And a big way to do that, sometimes people are like, well, yeah, it's all relationships. The website, no one really gives to the website. And I'm like, have you looked at your website?
Right.
When I'm going to donate, like, what are you talking about? And so of course, cash is important, right? Of course you want that. That's your lead. That's a quick click. But when you're talking about high wealth donors, like, do you want 10 $50 donors, or do you want one $10,000 donor? So it's a relationship, yes, but it's also like, in each email campaign, are you mentioning stocks and crypto or endowments? And you have to say it more than one time. You can't just be a flash in a pan and be like, we accept stocks, done. So one of the things that we often encourage is, and we give different ways to do buttons or an entire giving page, like there's different ways you can do that. But on a website, I look for alternative ways to give. Even, you know what I mean? And if you're like, oh, we already received stocks, you click on that and you got to call this person and download a PDF.
It's a PDF. Yeah.
Like it's a very, very manual process. And that's probably the reason you're only occasionally giving gifts of stock or receiving gifts of stock. So we're like, how easy can you make it for the donors? how much education are you providing them, and how many times are you giving them the opportunity, right? So it's like putting it in front of them, making it really easy, and telling that story is really important. So if you don't mention any of these other alternative ways of giving on your website, that's like the easiest place to start. Adding it into conversations, like RJ said, with relationship building. It's like, hey, just so you know, gifting stocks, like if you happen to hold that, that's the most tax efficient way for you to give, and it benefits the organization. Hey, also, if you hold crypto, we're now able to receive that. Just click here, click here. So I think having it on your website, consistently communicating the opportunities to your donors and educating them on why this is a better experience for them and for you, I think is really meaningful, because ultimately those people that you're having conversations with, they want to help you, right?
Yes.
They are philanthropic. They're here to help you succeed. They want to be generous. How easy are you making it for them? And how many different opportunities are you giving for them to share their wealth with your organization and your mission?
Yeah.
And I would just add too, I think, Jared, the high net worth, the high capacity givers, the ones that are able to give a lot, typically give assets, and they are meeting with their CPAs and their accountants at the end of Q3, beginning of Q4, looking at their whole picture and going, what should I be giving? And we want to give to these organizations. What's the best way to do that? So if you're not, to Karen's point, getting information, education through email campaigns, writing letters, whatever it takes, you're missing an opportunity, because I guarantee you these folks are meeting with their CPAs and their accountants at the end of Q3 and Q4, looking at their end of year giving. What are they going to give? How are they going to give? And where are they going to take it from?
I'm glad you mentioned that, RJ, and I'm curious because I had two questions. Karen answered one when it comes to the website. So thank you for going down that path. Do you recommend, RJ, that we, have a group of CPAs that we as a nonprofit build relationships with so that they could potentially advocate for the mission? Or are you seeing the individual already knowing where they want to give their assets, simply go to their own CPA and that CPA directs that? Because I'm wondering if we should market these opportunities to the accounting firms.
Well, that'd probably be a great strategy. You probably have to look at, what's mission critical in that phase. Do you have capacity to do that?
Sure.
From my experience, most of these donors, and I could be wrong, know where they want to give or have an idea. They're working with their accountant and CPAs on how to do it,
right?
How to limit and their accountant honestly is probably looking less at where they're giving and how to reduce their taxes. So it's kind of putting those two together. You have the donor who wants to give, and how do I do that? Where do I take it from? And then you have the CPAs going, we need to reduce these taxes, and this is the best way to do that. And so I think anytime you can build relationships with people who are in those seats is a really good thing. I think more times than not, my hope would be the donor comes with an idea of where they want to give. And that's not always the case. And so
well,
a CPA
as you said,
who
it really benefits their taxes. And Karen, you had mentioned earlier in the show, like, if they have to withdraw their assets, liquefy it, turn it into cash, like they're then getting penalized for this. And that's not what we want. So much information wrapped into such a short amount of time.
Can I add one really quick thing on that? Is that,
Please.
Sorry, I can't help myself, but they're not going to go to their CPA to make that too. So CPAs are a wonderful partner. We work with CPAs all day. They love us, but that donor is going to their broker or their investment advisor. So that's how that transaction is occurring. And one of the ways that we automate that is we put the order in writing rather than the manual calling, because most brokers don't want to, or they're not wanting to let go of those assets.
Right.
So sometimes they make it difficult for the donor. So when you have a broker making it difficult for a donor and a nonprofit making it very manual, then there's a disconnect. So the CPA is always like, yes, do this.
That's right.
They're not the ones making those connections. So it's very important for the organization to have the tools in place that make it really easy. And that's one of the things we do is we automate it in writing. So that donor clicks forward. And once that broker receives that order in writing, there's none of that manual back and forth. They have to act on that because the SEC requires it. So it's not making it a great donor experience.
Well, infinite giving makes it a phenomenal donor experience. And I definitely appreciate you adding that into the conversation, Karen. This has been fantastic. I always share with each of you, before we go live, that this is not my zone of genius. So I always learn so much from you. I've been in the sector 20 years and I still am learning exactly, how to take these gifts, assets, stocks, crypto, all the new fun things. So Karen Houghton, Chief Executive Officer, and RJ Caswell, Director of Business Development at Infinite Giving. Thank you so very much. For those of you that might have questions or want to do business, of course, with RJ and Karen, please check them out. InfiniteGiving.com is their website. I know I'm going to peruse that again. I've been on it before, but I'm going to take a look at it again. So much amazing information as we move into Q4 of this year. We want to make sure that we educate and we have these conversations with our donors. So thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful conversation with each of you today. We, of course, want to say thank you to our sponsors that allow us to have such informative conversations like the ones that you just heard here with RJ and Karen. So thank you so very much to Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Fundraising Academy at National University, Be Generous, Your Part-Time Controller, Staffing Boutique, Nonprofit Thought Leader, and the Nonprofit Nerd. These companies keep us going and growing, just like the conversation you just heard with Karen and RJ today. So again, if you missed any of this conversation, or it was over your head, like some of it was over mine, that's okay. You can go back and listen to it. And again, both of you, thank you so very much. I wish you well. And as we end every episode, we want to remind everyone and ourselves to stay well so we can all continue to do well. Thank you both. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Great to be here as always.